We continue our coverage on the chaos that ensued between police and students at Rhodes University yesterday. Joining us via Skype now is staff member Philip Machanick. Philip, good morning and thank you very much for your time. A short while ago here on Morning News Today on eNCA, my colleague Yuveka spoke to Naledi Mashishi, one of the representatives of the SRC at Rhodes. And for today, they say they are calling for a mass stay away. Just understanding where you're coming from, how do you think this mass stay away will go today?
It's very hard to predict. I'm part of a concerned staff group, and one of the things we've been trying to do is to maintain the peace on campus. And up until yesterday, we were reasonably successful when a mass stay away was called and the police were called in and told to enforce the interdict the university had obtained. And up till then, we'd had good cooperation from the police and staying back and allowing us to negotiate terms whereby they didn't feel they had to intervene. But yesterday, all hell broke loose, and I have real fears that the same thing is going to happen today. And, I was right there when students were being shot at with rubber bullets, and I think listeners need to understand if you're shot at close range with a rubber bullet, it can cause a serious injury. I believe we have 3 students in hospital, and if university management seems to think that doing something like this will return us to business as usual. I have long experience of observing and peacemaking conflict during the apartheid era, and the sort of steps they're taking are exactly the steps that escalate the conflict. We had a negotiation process going Monday and Tuesday. It broke down over a particular point that we believe is resolvable, and the university administration's approach was to call a meeting of all staff 8:30 tomorrow morning, tell us that we all agreed that fees must fall now, all go back to class, all will be normal. Meanwhile, the SRC had called for a stay away that day. They didn't address that at all. And what happened was that when students showed up in lectures and attempted to disrupt, the police showed up and started making arrests, which then resulted in a further escalation. So, our appeal as the concerned staff group is to step back from things that are escalating the conflict. We had a basis for negotiation. We don't know whether the students would go back to that after what has happened, but we believe we should at least try, and we're going to be working on that.
Okay, Philip, you said a lot of things in answering just one question there. Just want to get some clarity. You say you've been successful until yesterday, working with the students to keep things de-escalated and getting the process going smoothly, but then somebody called the police to intervene yesterday. Who called the police to intervene?
Well, it would have been the university management who did so.
Are they aware of your efforts as members of the concerned staff members? Are they aware, for instance, of your experience with conflict resolution?
Absolutely. When the rape culture protest broke out, I offered my services to the Vice-Chancellor and he showed no interest. And they had a direct experience of this a few days ago when there was an invasion of the main administration building. What happened there was I went through the building with the protesters, trying to maintain calm wherever I was. And when I was reasonably confident that nobody was being particularly spooked by the protest further back, I went to the head of the protest, where I found the students were in a heated argument with a senior member of the management. I stood aside to allow that to burn out, and then the students backed off, and the person concerned refused to vacate her office, so they locked her inside. I went outside and informed another senior member of staff what had happened so they could release the person. We then negotiated with the to send a delegation into the building to make sure everyone was safe, and further to ensure that the students outside didn't do anything to provoke a further response from the police, and a few minutes later everyone dispersed. So that's the sort of thing that we've been doing.
Okay, now Philip, why would you think the university management decided to call the police? Why are they not listening to you as concerned staff members, or why are they not really using properly your expertise?
I have no idea. They seem to have decided that we are the enemy. And, although we support the general terms of the student protest, we don't support everything we do. And, we're there to try to create a bridge. But somehow, wherever a conflict arises, we get seen to be the enemy rather than as a resource to try to resolve it. It's a very wearing process, but we're not going to give up, because this campus so far has been the one where the protests have not gone completely out of control. We haven't had really major injuries up till yesterday when The students who were hospitalized as a result of police action, not as a result of protesters attacking anyone. And we haven't had buildings burned down and so on. I'm not confident that we can keep it that way, but we'll do whatever we can to keep it as peaceful as we can, because I don't know about anyone else, but I do not want to see any of my students leaving here in body bags. I've given that commitment to the students, and I will stick to it.
Are you scared that things might escalate to the point where there are body bags at Rhodes, Philip?
I have no way of predicting that. All I know is that the way this thing is being managed seems to be calculated to escalate. And, what I would have hoped we could have done is show the rest of the country how one can arrive at a negotiated solution to these things, because we need to understand what we're dealing with. We have young people who are extremely disaffected by a system that has failed them in so many ways. They arrive at a university, they feel alienated because of the culture that they are made to feel they don't fit in because of their language or accent or background. And they have come from a culture of street protests over service delivery. And there's nothing wrong with protest. We need to have a negotiation over the terms of the protest, if there's certain things that are not acceptable in a university context. For example, some people find invasions of university reses very problematic because there's students there who've themselves had very traumatic life experiences. But we need to negotiate that sort of thing. And the big problem has been the trend to criminalize protest, which is an unending spiral, because the leaders then feel that they can't stick their heads up because they will be thrown in jail. So now you're dealing with a protest with no obvious leaders, which makes it extremely difficult for us as peacekeepers. We have to judge the crowd dynamics as the system unfolds and try to work out who we should talk to rather than knowing a certain person is the leader.
Okay, thank you very much, Philip. We're going to try and touch base with Mr. Mabizela, the Sizwe Mabizela, the Vice Chancellor, just to get his sense of what Philip Machanick has been saying. He's a member of the concerned staff at Rhodes University.